I run containers in network pods, each pod with an IP on a veth, for container D and kubernetes, with processes and namespaces underneath. In my pods, in containerized pods, a cluster of nodes to run my pods, a cluster of nodes large or small, a cluster of nodes to run them all, a cluster of nodes to run my pods, in my pods, in containerized pods, a cluster of nodes to run my pods, a cluster of nodes with varied storage, a cluster of nodes like bowls of porridge, a cluster of nodes to run my pods. I run containers in network pods. Some have sidecars like lash canoes, shared ports like arrow quivers, so the whole pod delivers. Kangaroos that use services, streams, or queues. In my pods, in containerized pods, a cluster of nodes to run my pods, a cluster of nodes with varied storage, a cluster of nodes like bowls of porridge, a cluster of nodes to run my pods, in my pods, in containerized pods, a cluster of nodes to run my pods, a cluster of nodes large or small, a cluster of nodes to run them all, a cluster of nodes to run my pods. In my pods, in containerized pods, a cluster of nodes to run my pods, a cluster of nodes with varied storage, a cluster of nodes like bowls of porridge, a cluster of nodes to run my pods. So containers themselves in a Kubernetes environment don't have a network identity. They're a set of processes and a set of file system mount points, and that's described in another song or poem. But in this one, just wanted to point out that we have containers that could be a single container and could be 2, 3, multiple containers. And the choice is yours, how far down the Kubernetes rabbit hole do you want to go. But you can have each container then sharing the same networking namespace and the host name, and then also some other shared inter-process communications. The network identity, though, again, belongs to the pod, not the individual containers. Each pod that runs in a node, and you could have 1 or 10 or 100 or maybe hundreds of pods per node. You can have multiple nodes per cluster. So Kubernetes is a flexible system to run pods of containers. Each container, again, is its own isolated file systems and compute power. And again, the pod is what offers that isolated network identity to one or more containers in that pod. And it can communicate with other pods as well on different nodes, in different clusters potentially. That's a whole different story. Or song, shall I say. Actually, it's a whole series of songs. I hope you enjoyed this one, and please let me know what else you would like me to record or write, and look forward to tuning in to the next video. Thanks.